All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So we want to continue the story and continue to talk about this a big story that's not only dominated the headlines here locally, but across the country. That's that fatal stabbing on the light rail, the Blue Line here in Charlotte. So yesterday here on Live Impact News, we got a statement from the State's Auditor's office, basically saying they're investigating Charlotte Area Transit System, also known as CATS. We got that statement in, and we also have State Auditor Dave Boliek in studio with us. We also have lead investigator Nate Morabito in as well. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's start here. So we got the statement about investigating into CATS. My first question for you: why now, and why was it important to go into this investigation, do this investigation?
Well, good question. The why is for the service workers and folks who use CATS every single day. It's for the college students at UNC Charlotte who use that system every day. And it's on behalf of the Charlotte Panthers fans who in 2 weeks are going to be on that system going to a football game. And that's why we're doing it. From the state auditor's perspective, since taking office in January, I have worked and our team has worked to repurpose the state auditor's office to really affect everyday North Carolinians and answer questions across the state on accountability, effectiveness, and efficiency and program results that come from the use of public dollars, and look at it from a perspective of how does it affect everyday North Carolinians. This is an issue with the Charlotte Area Transit System that has been bubbling to the surface. This is not the first high-profile incident of violence on the system in the last several months. I mean, we had 2 veterans recently assaulted on the CAT system, and now the tragic murder on the CAT system. So it would seem natural, at least to me, that this would be an area that the state auditor's office would want to look into, particularly if you look at it from the perspective of the fact that the city has engaged contractual services to provide security for CATS. So that'll be top of the list for us, is to take a look at that contract and what type of return on investment the city of Charlotte is getting.
Well, you mentioned those previous 2 incidents. One would ask, why not sooner? Because you mentioned those 2 incidents, but we've also covered violence on CATS in the past. So why not sooner? Why now?
Well, I think, yeah, and that's a good question. Over the last 3 weeks, there's been additional information now that has come to the forefront, because we don't enter into investigations or audits lightly. And over the last 3 weeks, since the murder on the CATS, there's been additional information that's come to light. For example, questioning the policy decisions with respect to having private security as opposed to Charlotte Mecklenburg police officers on duty, the armed or unarmed status of that security, as well as exactly how much money is being spent with respect to security on the system, and the percentage of the entire budget that is being spent on security. So as those additional pieces of information rise to the top, it gives our office more of a basis to engage.
I was going to point out that in 2023, we reported that the city of Charlotte was going to change its security contract. Basically go from one private security to 2 separate ones. One would be unarmed, one would be armed, and almost doubling essentially the security budget for CATS over the next several years. So there were these efforts to take a vote to change this, and now we're in this situation. So what kind of authority do you have, and what kind of inklings do you have early on that maybe the policies might not be met, or maybe the money isn't being spent as efficiently as it could be? Is there something there initially beyond the fact that there was a total lapse across the board that left this innocent woman dead?
Well, first on the top line, from November of last year, only 37% of respondents to a survey from the city of Charlotte felt safe on CATS. That's a top-line number that I think is really important. Secondly, to answer your question about authority, the State Auditor's Office has plenary authority to look at all aspects of any public-funded operation. That includes looking at contracts with private companies. So we'll have access and be able to look at all the communications and contractual language and dollars, cents, invoices, policies, procedures, everything within the confines of that contract with that private entity. We have plenary authority to investigate, and we're going to use the full authority of our office to complete that investigation.
I got to ask, we got a statement today from U.S. Department of Transportation. FTA is also launching their own investigation. So how does this investigation from the State Auditor's Office look different from that investigation?
Yeah, it's going to look, I'm sure there'll be some overlap.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's multiple agencies looking into it.
And how do you
there will
guys
be
work
overlap.
together on that?
Well, I mean, from a first blush, and I saw that release as well from the U.S. Department of Transportation, we'll certainly be getting the same information that the U.S. Department of Transportation gets in response to their request. But we'll be able to take a granular look at budget line items, and then take a real look backwards at exactly where not only Charlotte area transit system is going, but we can take a look back. Where has CATS been? What decisions have been made in the past? What has informed those decisions? And then we'll be able to compare that moving forward into the present system, present situation, and ask that question, using retrospective data to get a real answer of where CATS is and where CATS may need to move in the future.
How cooperative has the city been? I mean, who do you reach out to? Do you reach out to the city manager, Marcus Jones, and let them know you're doing this? What has been the initial response from the city?
Yeah, the city's cooperative. I mean, they really don't have any choice but to be cooperative with the State Auditor's Office, but they have been cooperative. They were cooperative in our investigation of the behind closed doors settlement with Chief Jennings. And we'll be releasing, by the way, our final report on that this week. But they were cooperative, and we got all the information that we requested from the city. So in terms of cooperation, our office, at least since I've been in office, has observed no problems with respect to getting the information and data that we need.
I'll give you some examples of some things that I've requested, and I'm sure they are looking at something similar too. But even as something as simple as just the ridership leading up to this murder and after, is there more fear now? Is that actually translating into fewer riders? The contracts, the penalties, if there were any, the certain contract language that could trigger other things and other actions. Tell us more about what you expect to find. Is there something that you feel like you will eventually get to that shows a major lapse at CATS, or are you casting a wide net?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important, and one of the things that we've tried to do at the auditor's office, at least since I took office first of the year, is to be data-driven on everything that we do. It's really important that you don't just spitball these audits. They've got to be based on data. For example, the audit we completed just recently on the Department of Motor Vehicles, 600 pages, laden with data. Every recommendation that we made in that audit is based on data and interviews and in-person information that we've taken, and the use of experts as well. So the State Auditor's Office, in order to maintain credibility, needs to base its final results, and our team does that, on data. And we're using new modern computer systems to aggregate that data and sift through data. The key is going to be able to contextualize the numbers. So it doesn't do really anybody any good or give you any real information if all you do is spit out numbers. You can be able to take those numbers and, to your point, make a contextual analysis of those numbers. So our view will be a wide net on CATS. It will be focused on primarily the return on investment, particularly on the security contract, and we'll be asking the questions of, number one, are people safe on the CATS system? And if they're not, what needs to be done to make them safe?
Do we have a timeline of when you guys will complete, State Auditor's Office will complete this investigation?
It's a good question, and it's a hard question to ask because, again, we want the data to drive the ultimate report. So it'll depend on the amount of data and where our investigation goes. Because, if we just look at a contract and just look at the results of what that contract says, the amount of money spent, what the metrics are, the data that is kept by CATS on the utilization of the contract, that in and of itself, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. But if we ask that broader question with respect to, as you said, ridership, what does that look like? What does an increase or decrease in ridership look like based on certain news stories? And we will take into account public opinion and public interviews as we fan out and talk to people who are affected daily by the CAT system, whether they're users or whether they're in recipients. For example, UNC Charlotte, major recipient of the use of the CAT system. It'll take some time. So I'm hesitant to put a timeline on it because we also don't want to release a half-baked report. We want it to be laden with data and backed up by data. What I can promise people of Charlotte is that we will be back and we will deliver a report.
Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, something else that I look at, and I've got to imagine you're doing the same thing. What were the staffing projections for each security company? How many actual staff were working, not just that night, but on all these other nights where things happen? And I want to point out, Strategic Security Corp, that's the armed guard company that the city contracted with, and Professional Security Services, the unarmed. So are you all reaching out to those contractors too?
Yes.
And hoping
Absolutely.
to get some explanations of what their staffing's like, what kind of resources they have?
Well, we're going to get the answers to that question, and that is within the authority of the State Auditor's Office. When it comes to private corporations, if you do business with the state of North Carolina or with the metropolitan Oregon City government, you are subject to audit by the state auditor, particularly if you have a contract with that agency. So with respect to that, we will get to the bottom of all those particular questions. Those are on my board, those questions. You and I think a lot alike.
Well, I always respect auditors because they like to dig just like I do.
I respect reporters because I used to be one. I'm a graduate of UNC Chapel Hill, and I was a newspaper reporter when I first graduated.
We all have important jobs to do, and really it's all about kind of making sure there are no cracks in the system, and if they are, we're exposing them and coming up with solutions. I know some people were critical, going just back to the chief investigation for a minute, that this was political. We have a Democratic mayor here, we have a Republican auditor, this was political. What you kind of started out by saying was we're trying to look at things practically now that affect everyday life. This clearly has been a ripple across the state and across this country. What would you say to people that say, well, this is another instance of a Republican targeting a Democratic city and trying to uncover something that may or may not be there? We know what the end result was, and it was horrible in this case. What would you say to people that say they're looking for something to criticize the Democrats about?
Well, first of all, I haven't brought up politics in this at all. And secondly, I would say Charlotte's 14th largest metropolitan area in the nation. It is part of the state of North Carolina. If the state auditor is really going to do the job of being state auditor, I think the people of Charlotte expect the state auditor to keep tabs on the city of Charlotte and to hold the government of the city of Charlotte accountable, regardless of the nature of the politics of the city. And so that was my commitment when I ran for office, and that's the commitment that I am attempting to hold up on behalf of the people of North Carolina. So we've been in other cities. We just released one of our first investigations of a small town, the town of Mount Olive, where we found, for example, not a lot of money for the city of Charlotte, but for the city of Mount Olive, a $211,000 misappropriation of dollars in their water department. That's a big deal to the town of Mount Olive, right? And the local district attorney has taken our report and is taking a look at whether they're going to institute criminal charges in that case. You know, we took a look at the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system, which has a, for the best of my knowledge, and quite frankly, I didn't even look, a mixed sort of political arrangement in terms of who's on that school board and who's on that county commissioner, and we did a fairly in-depth and critical analysis of that school system. You know, the interesting thing about it is, and I tell folks this, the state auditor actually takes 3 oaths of office. Every other elected official across the state of North Carolina takes 2. The 2 standard oaths are a constitutional oath of office and a statutory oath of office. So you take your oath to uphold the Constitution, not only the United States Constitution, but the state Constitution. And you also take an oath of office to uphold your statutory duties. The state auditor takes that 3rd oath of office, which is to complete his or her job in a nonpartisan fashion. And I took that oath of office, and that's the commitment that I have and that our team has with respect to every audit and every investigation that we complete.
This is clearly like layered, this whole situation, right? It involves the city and public transportation, it involves the court system, et cetera, right? It involves mental health. Will there be other agencies you look at as part of this too? Well, you know I look at conviction rates. I'm looking into that right now for the DA's office in Mecklenburg County.
Right.
That's kind of connected in some way, right? Will you look at magistrates and judges? The AOC, the Administrative Office of the Courts, is that under your authority? Will this just be the city of Charlotte eventually? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge that there have been a lot of questions about the magistrates and the judicial system here in Charlotte with respect to this particular incident. And oftentimes it takes an incident like this to reveal that as an issue that needs to be looked at. So I don't want to say that we won't look at that because it certainly is an issue that deserves attention. Our primary focus right now, though, is going to be on the CAT system because I think that's where our office can have the most effect and where we can get some real results because we can scope our investigation to get results that really matter. For example, it's not necessarily just the security. We need to look, for example, at fare hopping. Right, that was an articulated issue at the city council level about folks that jump the gate and get in without a fare. And I believe the individual who's charged in this case did not have a ticket. So this fare hopping is something that we need to take a look at as part of our audit. You know, it's important for our office to take a look at things with the respect of where can we actually get a result. So if we cast our net too narrow, we don't get a meaningful result. But if we, on the other hand, cast it too wide, we don't get enough information to provide a meaningful report. So our team looked at it over the last several days, last week or so, and decided that this CATS audit would be the right approach where we could actually get people some real results.
Is there any, I guess, opposite of that question, is there any collaboration in this investigation with any other agencies?
Well, again, it depends on where our investigation leads and where the data leads us.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll have, even in case of the city of Charlotte, you'll have internal auditors that have certain reports. Those reports, if they're available, we'll get that and take a look at it because there's no need for our team to necessarily reinvent the wheel if there's already a collection of data. So we'll look at internal audit reports. We'll also look at any other type of agencies that may have investigated or done reports on a CAT system. For example, Department of Transportation, any information that not only the State Department of Transportation may have, but the Federal Department of Transportation. We'll take a look at their information and data. And then, you know, what's really important and what we did, for example, with the DMV audit is to actually interview and talk to the people that work on the front lines and who operate the CAT system. Bus drivers, for example. Those are the kinds of individuals that we need to interview and talk to because a lot of times they'll be the most insightful with respect to how things actually work where the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
Are you?
I didn't intend that pun, but
Are you
I was going to point it out.
based on what you've learned so far and your communications with potentially other state officials, are you privy to information that the public isn't aware of yet about this case that would be revealing eventually to us or that you could share?
Well, any information we have right now that we've collected, and we have begun that collection process, well, I don't want to prematurely release that information because, again, we want to put it into context. One small piece of information may not be as instructive if there's another adjoining piece of information that would illuminate a fact. And so to prematurely release information, I don't think would be appropriate.
About from the chief settlement, I mean, I know in that case, this is Chief Johnny Jennings who's retiring and received that agreed upon settlement behind closed doors. Really, it took you all applying the pressure for him to eventually say publicly, you all can see this settlement. You're saying that's going to be released, that report, later this week, I assume tomorrow or Friday?
Yes.
Anything you can share ahead of that?
Absolutely. Because the report is done. We just need to release it. And I do agree with you. In looking at it, I'm not sure that the actual public dollars expended would necessarily have been released to the public, but for the fact that we initiated our investigation. So I'm proud of the team for jumping on that. What you will find is a confirmation of the $305,000 that was in fact part of a settlement. You'll be able to, the people will be able to see the source of that funds and where those dollars came from. And there'll be some recommendations with respect to transparency in government and local government that come as a result of that.
The word corruption was thrown around by one council member early on in all of this. Anything that would rise to that level?
I wouldn't use the word corruption. I would say there is, and this is not necessarily singular to just the city of Charlotte, but transparency is a big issue, particularly with the expense of public dollars. It's not a political issue to have public dollars transparently expended. I think people on both sides of the aisle and people who are unaffiliated expect that when government officials, when councils, when mayors, when city managers expend public dollars, that's going to be reported to the public. And they expect that. And it's our job at the State Auditor's Office to hold those levels of government accountable on explaining that. In our own office, for example, you can go to our website and see how we spend every single dollar. We created a dashboard internally from our data analytics team. And I felt it was important that if I'm going to go out and ask agencies and city councils and small towns, big towns, how they spend their money, that it was important for us at the State Auditor's Office to let the public know how we spend our money. So you can go to our website and see how we spend every dollar.
One more question on that. Did the city agree with all your all's findings?
Mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, and it's fine. I think in general, yes, they agreed with our findings.
All right, that is State Auditor Dave Boliek here in studio, along with investigative reporter Nate Morabito, answering questions regarding the special report that we just finished asking about regarding the payment to CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings, also the investigation into cats. Mr. Boliek, thank you for your time. Thank you for stopping by.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course.